The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior webhead master, Jarod Bachman-Stubbs, and I am here with a little intro. We wanted to maximize our time with Armin because we only had an hour with him, so I figured I'd just do the intro retroactively. So I am here from the future to say hello and to give a little bit of a programming note up top and let you guys know you're going to get 2 episodes of TNAP this week. We're doing this flash review and then that Secret Invasion episode review and news roundup we promised you. And I'm glad it got delayed a little bit because we now have our Superman and Lois Lane for Superman Legacy. So we'll be talking about that as well as a couple other things as well. Another programming note, keep an eye out on the podcast feed of Octo Radio. Friend of the show, Alden Diaz, had me on for a very fun Q&A episode that I hope you tune in for. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the conversations we had over there. Always enjoy going on Octo Radio. But with all of that said, you know that this episode is brought to you by the lovely people over at sundaysbloodymary.com. You know the drill. Sundaysbloodymary.com has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the multiverse with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix. Almost said 2-time, but we know to put some respect on their name with that 3rd championship. They also have their mild and traditional mixes if the spice is not for you, as well as their also award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus if you're trying to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy. And if you're feeling real nasty, you can go ahead and put some salt on that rim. So get on over to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout. And get 10% off your favorite order, or get 10% off your order, and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. With that, I am very excited for you guys to see this episode. Had a lovely time speaking with Travis, of course, and Armin from the ComicBookCast, all about The Flash. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, everybody. Well, it is time at last to talk about a movie that has been in development since quite literally back when I first started listening to the podcast of our guest. We are obviously joined by Armin of ComicBookCast for the first time in a hot minute. Schedules aligned, and after recently Roosevelt's pilling Armin, I
wasn't
like,
sure
so,
if you had. I had seen pictures of him in what I thought were Roosevelt shirts, and I was like, did Jared get to him, or are these just like kind of close in?
Oh no, he got to me. I am now, as of yesterday. As of yesterday, I am 51 shirts in. Okay, 51 shirts. I blame you.
Okay, are you ready? Are you ready for a really fun grand total real quick? But now I count me and Taylor's shirts all together because we share some. So that does take a second person into effect. However, the ones if we were to parse it out with what belongs to her and what belongs to me, I still have a problem. I have been shopping with them for about 4.5, maybe 5 years now. Or no, closer to 4. Because I know the first shirt I got was in like 2018, 2019, with that David Pumpkins one. I'm at about just north of 80.
Oh.
That is over the course of several years, and you are already on my tail.
So, okay, here's the problem. they started off slow, but in the last like 8 months I
Oh my
started,
God.
they're
They've
like,
come for
hey,
your fucking neck.
you like fucking Star Wars? You like Spider-Man? You like Harley Quinn? You fucking love G.I. Joe, don't you? I'm like, of course I fucking do. Like, so I am so boned when it comes to this. It is,
It was
but
so
luckily,
funny.
it's like replacing all my other shirts, so I don't have to worry about it, you know? So
That's the same place I was in. Well, what I thought was really funny was I was at my girlfriend's best friend was getting married. I was not in the wedding. Taylor was. So I was like there for all the pictures being taken and stuff. And we're at this like beautiful park in Pittsburgh and all the pictures are getting taken. And I'm just kind of like helping a lot of the bridesmaids with like moving their stuff around. And my phone goes off and I see a message from Armin. I'm like, oh, wonder what's going on. And it's a picture of you going like, oh, hey, I got some of those shirts you were always talking about. And it's like some of the Michael Myers ones.
Yep.
And I looked at it and went, he's fucked.
yeah.
Out loud. I was like, I've seen that this man does with hot toys. There is no way. There is no way I did not pill this man to the nth degree. And then like right after that, it's like, oh, they're like they do some of their best Star Wars shit yet, and the comic book stuff, and then they hit poor Armin with the 1-2 punch of G.I. Joe and Transformers within 1 month.
Yep, I am screwed. So it's been good. They're great shirts. They look amazing. I mean, I entered the gym now, and everybody's like, "There's the shirt, man. We were betting on what you're gonna wear today." I'm just like, "Damn right." So
that is so funny to me that I've also passed the baton of shirt man as well. Oh, that is so funny. I love to tell people like I listen, Roosevelt's, we're right here. I've done the math, and just by the way I've spread this brand to people like a fucking contagion, I have made Roosevelt's upwards of $3,000
easily.
based on not based on stuff I've bought, based on like me telling people about the brand and the fact that I know 2 or 3 people who, upon like being told about it, just like a dozen shirts in a week, and it consumes them completely. But yeah, no, we're talking Flash, and again, this movie was announced when I had first started listening to ComicBookCast. Travis and I were still in high school together.
Yep.
Yep. That like
I was about to graduate.
You were on the cusp of graduating.
And being a nerd was finally cool. Avengers had come out. Everyone, like the council agreed. If you were a nerd, you were cool. And because I had like a shred of comic knowledge, everyone was like, so what do you think about this movie? And are they going to make this? And what do you think? So when the DC slate was out, everyone was like, so what do you think? And I was like, no, it's going to, like, it sounds cool. It's going to fall apart in like 2 years.
It's really surreal, and I'm really glad. I really wanted to have Armin on for this one because, like, because of ComicBookCast, I decided I wanted to become to steal the words directly out of Armin's mouth, like a dick joke journalist, like a dick joke entertainment journalist. And like, it feels wild that the Flash fucking came out.
Do you guys want a total, complete, fucking mind-bending mindfuck right now? Because this is, you guys have known, because, you know, they announced the Flash, 20, what, like 15, 14, 15, something like that. Or, you know, after like Man of Steel, right? You know, that San Diego Comic-Con. Let me give you a time warp, because the original Flash film, the one I followed when I became a nerd, was announced after the premiere of Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I was in the fucking forums talking about this. I'm like, oh man, are we going to see this in the next 5 years? And after that, are we going to see this in the next 5 years? We're 19 years later, and we finally got the Flash film, and it's just about as underwhelming as I could have imagined it was going to be. So amazing.
And that's what I'm excited to talk about, because I think this might end up being one of those situations where, like, I'm the truther for this movie, not enthusiastically, because, like, for me personally, as you know, I put in my name, I was whelmed. You know, I think, you know, when you consider how many writers, how many directors like this went through the hands of, and then you consider the landscape of the DC brand, the landscape of Warner Brothers Discovery as a company, the landscape of film and, you know, cinema going post-pandemic, like, for reasons that are like beyond this movie's fault, you know, and that's not even to address the Ezra Miller of it all.
Right.
And that having another additional layer of baggage attached to this movie. I went into this movie prepared to grade it on the scale where like that like famous Patton Oswalt quote about Blade Trinity, you know,
Yeah.
where it's like where like, you know, this movie's an F when you just watch it, but when you know about the hellified mess that it was behind the camera, behind the scenes to get this movie made, it gets a C simply for existing.
So I do want to kind of just say something here, which I think is going to set my tone for this movie. Watching this, and right before it, you know, in the last like 6 months, watching Shazam 2 and Black Adam, The Flash is a film that I find infinitely more enjoyable than both of those.
I agree with you completely.
Way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
And like, and I do want to say, like, I went into the movie like prepared to grade it on that scale, and I walked out of it going, "Oh, like that was an actual movie."
Yeah.
I saw a movie, so I don't have to like treat I don't have to give it like this. This is not a game where I have to give it a handicap. Like, I can just talk about this movie and what worked and didn't work. It's not the fact that it came out as a miracle. Like, it is because of all the production woes, but like, I don't have to treat it like it's a miracle that it just exists. And that, like, you know, it wouldn't be like Morbius, for example, where it's like, I can't talk about this movie like it's a fucking movie, because it's not. It's incoherent. It's sloppy. It's, you know, it exists for its own sake and doesn't actually have anything to say. Whereas like The Flash, again, is middling. You know, having spent a month listening to everybody and their brother tell me that this was the fucking 10 commandments of comic book movies, you know, like, I think was a grievous mistake. You know, now if that was sincere praise from fucking Tom Cruise and James Gunn and anybody else who saw it, then like, hey, power to them. I'm glad they liked it that much. But like, it turned into like the key marketing campaign for this movie was for famous people to tell you how much they loved The Flash. And like, I don't understand how anybody like let that happen. Like, it puts too much, it raises the stakes so high for a movie that cannot deliver, you know? And in many ways,
and I think that's the point. I think like, because everyone,
I think.
Oh, God damn it. I even checked this time.
Okay, now you're good. It literally sounded like you were speaking into a Pringle can for a second, and now you're back.
What if I told you this was a Pringle can that I shaped into an orb? But I think that was the trick. I think their plan, because like, so first of all, their lead actor is off the table. Like, they can't use them for marketing at all. Already in a bind. They're already milking Michael Keaton dry. What do? What if we hype this movie up so much? Spoilers, I didn't like it for several reasons. And, you know, we'll talk about it later. But in that same vein of like, the fact that it exists and all makes it a C, I am less upset at this movie than I was at Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Because the problems I have with this movie are very similar to that movie. To BVS, except I don't have like a director to be like, I dislike your vision of these characters. It's, wow, this is a mess because the studio made it into a mess over a decade.
Yeah.
You know?
Whereas Batman v Superman is like the arch villain of comic book movies, in that it had this buck wild vision from Snyder mixed with WB fiddling with it at the same time.
And like, I think the goal of being like, this is the greatest superhero movie of all time, is so that when people left, they weren't like, wow, that was bad. That was awful. They would go like, well, I did enjoy some parts of it, but like obviously it wasn't going to live up to whatever Tom Cruise said, you know.
You mean the resurrection of Rasputin, where he came back and said it's the greatest film he's ever seen? Like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, I was half expecting Optimus Prime to be like, yeah, me and Rosa Parks, my buddy, saw this shit and it was gold. Like, what the fuck? Come on. Oh, awful.
Impressive. It's actually, I've been to the Rosa Parks Museum and it's actually on a plaque in there. I thought
it's like here's the bus seat and here's her ticket to the Flash.
Yeah, that's where she was going after work. Famously.
Yeah.
Secret history. This is a Transformers plot if I've ever heard one. God damn.
So, okay, I get Travis, I know I think it's safe to say that you dislike the movie more than Armin or myself.
I would presume.
So I'm gonna give you the floor to unpack what you dislike, because what I dislike has way more to do with like the endemic issues of like the DCEU and how it manifests with this movie more than it does with the film itself, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give you the floor to like speak your piece and then we can kind of go from there. Oh shit, he's on.
Where do I begin? So for starters, I want to mention something that I put on Twitter that I did have someone walk out of my viewing of this movie. That's a real thing that happened to me. Most hilarious.
In Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which says a lot.
And there was 10 people in this theater.
Because motherfuckers from Latrobe will watch anything.
Yeah, it was like there was me, my friend Zach, who came to see it with me. There was a mom and her 3 boys, aged like 9 to 14, in front of us. 2 like 15-year-old girls to our right, and then this like probably mid-60s couple to my left. And about 10 minutes into the movie, the woman of that couple leaned over to her, I presume, husband, and went, "Wow, this is a shitty movie." Loud enough for us to hear. And then I don't know when she walked out.
At what point in the movie did she say that? If you remember?
Like the opening sequence. Like after the opening sequence, with
like when he's like saving everybody at Gotham General.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is so funny. Yeah,
I
see,
don't know
while
when
you were
she
doing
walked out.
that, we were fighting for our lives in Swiftsburg.
That's why I went to see it. I was like, we have our local air show thing that weekend, and everybody else is going to be at the Taylor Swift concert. This theater is going to be empty, and I was surprised it wasn't.
Yeah,
but that was worth it.
There were barely signs of life to begin with, but still.
Right. So like you mentioned, I mean, the problem is the DCEU thing, to be honest, because like DC's problem is that they think they have to market their movies by adapting popular comic lines. Right. So like this movie couldn't just be a Flash story. They had to make Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Right. And Flashpoint is a large ensemble story that requires Barry Allen to be a full like character that has made it. Like, has married Iris West, has his friend's support system. The rogues are established. Like he's established his life as the Flash.
And like not just the rogues are established as in like they're established characters, like the institution of the capital T, capital R rogues.
Right.
Where like they have basically unionized as people who get beat up by the Flash.
He's had his ongoing issues with Eobard Thawne. And like whatever one of those things you want to adjust, you can, but none of that's there. None of that framework is there to support a Barry Allen that already didn't work for me personally because of their characterization in the movie in Justice League, right? Like I really don't like.
I also real quick just want to say as a disclaimer, I know Travis and I have done this before when talking about like the Flash with like Ezra Miller and Barry Allen. He and they will probably be used interchangeably. If we're saying he, we're referring to the character.
Yeah, obviously.
Like,
yes.
Because
if
know,
I do it by accident, I will correct myself. But like generally, he is Barry Allen, they is Ezra Miller.
Just as a heads up, because I know, because so often when we're talking about a character and the actor, the pronouns are the same, and then it doesn't really matter. But for the sake of people knowing, it is going to be he, they. He is Barry Allen, they is Ezra Miller. Continue.
Yes. So like, because the whole characterization of Flash in Justice League in both versions is like he's Sheldon Cooper.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I mean, I would not take it that far. I've said that about Tech from the Bad Batch. So I maybe I'm just sheepish to say that about yet another character, but
like I don't say that in the like. I don't think you can have a neurodivergent superhero. I think that's absolutely possible. The issue is when you are superpositioning that over an established character and then not repurposing their story to support that.
Yeah.
So like, I have notes. Because I saw this movie opening weekend. I've been sitting here for like a week wondering if we were going to talk about it, and just in case I didn't want to lose anything. But one of my big things is like, there's more than one occasion, and like it happened in Justice League, where it feels like there's a joke and that the punchline is, haha, this kid is neurodivergent. Isn't it funny? I'm going to kick them while they're down. It doesn't happen often in this movie, but that doesn't feel good, right? Like, doesn't work. Okay. And then on top, and like, Barry Allen doesn't have the supporting cast around him that could even potentially make that work, right? On top of the fact that you're missing all of these actors and characters for the characters that are important to the Flashpoint story. And I think for what they had, they did okay. I will give it that, like they could have done much worse.
They could have done worse. And like, not to make my first big talking point here, like revolve around Batman, as I am off to do.
I have a whole thing about Michael Keaton, man.
Here's my thing, and I just want to say this because it goes towards that, like, we were so fucking close. We could have had so much. That like that we've had like the DC universe have the wheels fall off of it. Like it's almost been 10 years. Like, I mean, it's more than 10 years if you count Man of Steel, but like, it's almost been 10 years since Batman v Superman. And since then, it has been a series of like critical and box office missteps and flops, where you have movies that, it's either a quality thing or a box office thing, where you have movies that were fucking great that died a slow, painful death at the box office, like Shazam or Birds of Prey. Yep. Or you have movies that are that you just don't understand what they're trying to do because the universe is so illy defined. And again, like all of these are able to and should stand on their own and also be part of a greater universe. However, every single one of these movies has some element where it wants to remind you it's part of a universe that is shattered, that is incoherent. Mm-hmm. And when we get to this movie, when we get to Flashpoint, like I've always thought, like if they ever wanted to do a live action Flashpoint, it should be a 2-parter, and it should be a Justice League movie that Barry is the main character of.
There's a reason the animated movie is called Justice League Flashpoint.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Because first of all, centering it's some ways like this is kind of the same problem as Batman v Superman, where it's not even a hat on a hat. You're trying to wear a hat with like scuba gear. Like they don't fit together. Yeah. I don't understand how you can have your first big live action Flash movie, big live action Flash story be fucking Flashpoint.
So I got a story to tell here. And this is important to the whole Flash and Flashpoint being the first Flash story. So I naturally read a lot of comics and I love the Flash. So one of the trades I have is the return of Barry Allen when he got brought back to comics, like what, 12, 13 years ago or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like they reintroduce him, and then the entire comic is the entire world going, whoa, Wally's not the only Flash. We thought Barry died. And that's the introduction. My wife tried to pick up Flash comics, and that's the first one she jumped into because she heard me talking about Flashpoint, and she wanted to read Flashpoint. So she jumps in, and she's like 10 pages in. She goes, I have no idea what's happening. So she put that down and jumps into Flashpoint, and she's reading it. Another 10 or so pages in, she puts it down. She goes, I don't understand this. What is this? This film is the same exact scenario. You expect me to watch Avengers Infinity War without having seen anything or knowing who Steve Rogers is? And
I was just about to say, this is like watching fucking Endgame immediately after finishing fucking Thor.
Right.
Like,
now,
just Thor. Thor.
Now, only imagine the Thor you watched is nothing like the Thor you're getting in Endgame, because he was by a different director who put him in a different direction where he was just about, probably the rest of the characters, a complete murderer psychopath. And in this, he's whimsical. You're like, what am I watching? This film failed on that, because if you know nothing about the Flash, you go into this film and you walk away, you go, I know he's Barry Allen and he can travel through time, and you still have nothing else you know. It failed on that front.
It fails on that front. And again, like the emotional core and the allure of a Flashpoint story is you've gotten to know these characters so well. Now we're going to press shuffle on them. You can't convince me that Flashpoint was not always, pardon the pun, the end game, because why in the fuck else do you cast Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne? Like, the writing was on the wall. I remember when Batman v Superman came out. That was like one of the big talking points, is when do we inevitably see, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne Batman? You know? Like,
and that comes down to,
clear.
I think, again, DC is too afraid to take the Marvel leap of constructing original stories for their movies that are loosely based on comic plots, and like, we'll throw in the occasional panel everyone loves.
Yeah.
Right. We'll throw in the occasional Civil War of like, we're going to name drop a comic and everyone's going to freak out.
I was going to say, I think that's the first time, like, aside from Age of Ultron, but like, that was a really new comic story still. Like, that they just like said the name of a storyline, like as the title of the movie. And then
everyone still accepted
it.
Like when Civil War came out, everyone either didn't know and like looked it up and figured out what was going on, or if they knew, like us, accepted on face this was not going to be like the comic book. That like the only thing is the foundation of Tony and Steve have beef. That's it. And people are going to
There's some very, government overreach, Big Brother looking over your shoulder type beef. And and like
they even kept that as a miracle. Like they could have done whatever they wanted. And DC's too afraid to do that. And the only Flash story anyone knows is Flashpoint, if they're not entrenched in the comics, because unfortunately the Flash's big stories are all crisis events.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Yeah.
I think Barry Allen,
think of like Flash having like a long Halloween,
Yeah. I'm like, the Flash had Flashpoint, which is an unnamed crisis event, or dies in a crisis event. That's the Flash's legacy for people that don't know the Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like we've been saying, it's that like in the same way that we talk constantly about like the moment that the DCEU started to become untethered, in my opinion, was when they decided that the foundation of the Justice League and the first meeting of Batman and Superman would also happen when Superman dies. Was the moment that the DCEU was never going to be able to function, because by doing so, you removed so many of your core characters from the playing board to be able to do anything with them, and have created too many like crucial plot details that need to be answered in Justice League for anybody to touch that besides the people who are making Justice League. So you have to then like construct this really weird universe around that. And a similar thing happens here with Flash. I'm just going to call it Flashpoint with the Flash, that Barry's big story that I think had the Snyderverse or whatever the fuck you want to call it, whatever the fuck it was supposed to be, that its endpoint was supposed to be a Flashpoint story. To either do a soft reboot or just for fun. You know, like the fact that the DCEU, the Snyderverse, whatever you want to call it, has a bad future outcome baked into it. One of the core elements of this universe, one of a core beating heart segment of like the Snyder movies, which love them or hate them, are foundational to this universe and this iteration of Barry Allen, revolve around this apocalyptic timeline where Superman becomes a thrall of Darkseid. Like, that's right there. Like, how do you like it feel like I felt and I noticed that in the movie theater where part of my brain went, how is that not the inciting incident?
Yeah.
How is it like, again, pardon me, if you don't want to make the whole thing about, you know, Barry saving his mom, which again, like, yes, you can make an argument that like Marvel movies don't always directly adapt their stories. Something like Civil War, like Travis already said, was this like kind of stripped down version of it. The Flash, oh, he goes back to save his mom and he's working with a different Batman. And like there's a Kryptonian who's like emaciated in a government facility. All of that is true. All of that is accurate. Pardon me, getting over allergy stuff. But like, evil Superman, like there's no resolution for that. This was the only time you ever could have done that. Where you ever could have just been like, yes, this is the reason why Barry finally goes back in time. And like, that's part of it. That like, and again, in a universe that had like some functioning endoskeleton of format that like didn't fall apart at the seams the way the Snyderverse did, could have been like, we're going to go here and here and here and here and here. And eventually Barry will realize that this like dark Superman timeline is an inevitability and he will decide to go back in time and, oh shit, now it's an apocalypse. No DC pun intended. We're like Thomas Wayne is Batman and the Amazonians and the Atlanteans are about to go to war. Like that was right there. That all could have been a part of the DNA of all of this. But instead, because the wheels fall off and Jeffrey Dean Morgan is probably busy doing things that aren't this fucking movie, you end up in this situation where they go, okay, well, what can we do? Well, Flash will reset the universe and Michael Keaton's Batman now, and it's not Ben Affleck anymore. Cool. And to build on that, Michael Keaton is going to be the Batman to this Batgirl. Oh, wait, sorry. We need a fucking tax write-off.
Yep.
Like, this movie was like, it's
so
the universe part of it feels so superfluous and it shouldn't matter, but it drives me insane.
So I want to bring something up. I have a list here. It's going to take me probably a minute to read it, maybe a little less.
Please
but
do.
It starts at 2014 to 2015 to officially Andy Muschietti being hired. So here is the list of every writer and actor / director that was up for some sort of involvement that contributed to this final script. David S. Goyer, Sean Levy, David Dobkin, James Gunn, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Seth Green Smith, Rick Fumigawa, Robert Zemeckis, Matthew Vaughn, Sam Raimi, Mark Webb, Jordan Peele, Ben Affleck, Zack Snyder, Andrew Francis Daly, and Jonathan Goldstein, and finally Andy Muschietti. There is over 12 people in 4 years that got their hands on what became the final Andy Muschietti version that he had to zombie together. It's honestly, I'm just going to say it, it's even a miracle that this film has some sort of semblance of a fucking plot. It is a miracle because we've seen far less hands in one fucking kitchen come out much worse. We've seen,
you know how they did it?
Jeff.
You want to know how they did it? They scraped away every character that wasn't Barry Allen.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Because we know Cyborg was very
second
heavy
Barry Allen.
Well, yeah, because like you can't. You have to have ways to exposit dialogue, right? Like, like Barry needs to find out what's going on in this timeline, but they don't have a reliable way to do that otherwise. I also put on Twitter that I had a big crackhead theory about Michael Keaton's Batman in this movie that still partially holds up, but not for like any fun reasons. I don't know about you guys. It felt like almost all of Michael Keaton's scenes were stitched into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It really felt like it was either a cutaway or it's a body double for Barry, or like it was off-putting to me. I always felt like, man, that cut was weird, or like it feels like Michael Keaton's talking to nobody. Does that make sense?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. There are scenes in this film where instead of the two actors talking face to face, it is literally almost like, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier screamed of this the most. There are scenes where the lighting and the background of the actors is different because they shot during the pandemic. And you can see when they're supposed to be in the same scene, they're just cut away to a close-up or a medium shot, and they're talking to literally, there's nobody there. It is, there is a bit of that in here that I found very jarring. And like Keaton almost phoned in because he didn't know what the line was coming from the other actor or the emotion. So he just delivers it monotone. I really felt that here.
And so my big crackhead theory was, because if you look at the dates of like articles hitting the space, and like this could go deeper than this, but we found out
way to the top.
We found out that Michael Keaton was going to be in this movie as Batman 3 days after we found out that Alfred Molina was officially playing Doc Ock in No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is a very odd amount. And so that means we knew Alfred Molina was on set like months before that. This was a very weird period of time, and I remember this.
Travis is like, I remember the T-Nap. It was talked about in the same episode.
And so,
oh no, Travis! I just realized if I'm Alex Jones, you're my Owen Schroyer.
Ah, damn it!
You're the cuck destroyer.
I'm gonna get that tattooed across my back.
No, get it like a Jared Leto damaged tattoo, just cuck destroyer
in the same font.
Yes.
And so my big brain move was, oh my God, they got Michael Keaton to play the Flash because they found out about, like, someone at Sony, it had to be Sony, not Marvel, really screwed the pooch and let it slip. They were doing the multiverse thing in No Way Home to a WB executive, and they fucking jumped on it, right? That was my big brain theory.
I mean, look, and you could see people will come in and say that's not a fact, but guess what? When DC announced we're doing Batman v Superman, they scrubbed everything related to Mad Bomb and the Serpent Society and said, fuck it, make the third Captain America Civil War because we need to compete. It does happen. So I believe it. I think that's a good theory.
My only pushback to your conspiracy theory...
I've disproved myself, but go on.
All I was going to say was, like, and again, we'll never know the inside baseball, truly, is Batgirl. That is the only that is the only thing that keeps me from like fully buying in as to like what they were going to do with the alternate timeline Batman, be it Keaton, Affleck, fucking Clooney is on the table, I guess now too. Which I loved. Oh, it made me so happy. That made me so happy, especially because it means that weird Grace Randolph report just like meant that she got something that like that was such a game of fucking telephone that made me so happy that like there's a joke stinger at the end of The Flash of George Clooney somehow turned into George Clooney as James Gunn's Bruce Wayne. But anyway, we'll never know the inside baseball of how much Flash and Batgirl were meant to lead into one another.
Right.
And that is the only reason I'm hesitant to fully buy in on your
here's why I'm wrong. Theory. I think all of the interviews that Keaton gave about like, yes, I'm doing the Flash as Batman. He was talking, and remember this movie started shooting in 2021. He the whole time was like, I'm really cautious about COVID protocols because I'm old. Right? Like I'm being super careful. So now my theory is like he requested to shoot separate of everyone else, or like they were so careful for him, just like out of respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they
I mean,
needed
it
him
would
for
make
this
sense
movie.
that, like, Batman's big fight scene, you can have a stunt double and a lot of that CGI, and then the other action scene with Batman, he's piloting the Batwing.
But also remember, we just heard it recently. It's kind of been backed up, and the rumors are true. Before they landed on Keaton, they went hard after Christian Bale. And all those reports turned out to be true, but he kept telling them no. And then he officially told them, I joined the MCU. The whole Keaton thing and his potential comeback started after Homecoming. That's when people started to rumor that he might be back as Batman because he said he'd like to give it another crack. So if they were going after, Bale, you can kind of see how when he kept saying no, they were like, all right, pivot to Keaton. And like you said, the whole COVID thing, that was definitely a factor too. And I think this film, you see like a Frankenstein monster of different versions, ideas, moments, and things just kind of compounding to give us what we got, which is a little weird, but at the same time, like, it's a film that goes back to, I mean, look, everybody's seen it at this point, I think. It's like the final act of this film takes us to Man of Steel. It's like, bro, oh man, that is wild. Like, it's
yeah, and it is novel. I do think that was interesting. And in a world where you do Flashpoint, in my opinion, as a two-parter, I think it would have been cool if the first, like, if you, like, again, in a world where there's like more than one Justice League movie, and like Affleck gets a Batman movie, and like again, like in the Snyderverse alternate world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where those movies come out according to plan, that like you split Flashpoint down the middle, and the first half is this movie.
Yeah.
Not like in theory, where it's like Barry went back in time to save his mom. And oh shit, I reset the timeline in such a way that Zod's invasion goes tits up and everybody fucking dies. Well, shit, I gotta reset. I gotta re-reset the timeline, and by doing that, he creates the Flashpoint universe where Thomas Wayne is Batman and stuff like that. So, like, I dig that idea. Like, part of me really liked the whole, oh no, like this thing happened again, and like retroactively making it so that literally everybody who's important to this universe was in Metropolis that day. Between Bruce Wayne and Barely Allen.
I also think that part of the thing with the Flashpoint stuff, like you said, like it was inevitable we were going to get the Flashpoint in this universe, regardless of how it went. I think that was part of their contingency to replace Ben Affleck, or at least reset Ben Affleck to be not an old Batman, right?
Yeah.
Because that, our whole foundation is wrong if Batman has had his whole career by the time the Justice League forms. Like that just doesn't,
or at the very least, like old but not like horrifying worst case scenario murderer Batman with a dead Dick Grayson,
Right. And so like what Flashpoint lets you do is Barry comes back after whatever your version of the Flashpoint movie is, and you either have a different actor in place of Ben Affleck, or we just like establish that Ben Affleck's Batman is younger.
Yeah.
We're just like, because he's like arbitrarily aged, right? Like we don't have an exact age, I don't think, on Batfleck. So and Ben Affleck's not that old, at least he wasn't at the time. So you could have been like, oh yeah, now he's like 38.
Yeah.
Seasoned, but not seasoned. The Justice League is formed, so they know each other for like the letter drop from the comic.
And like also, you mentioned that, but we know for a fact Henry Cavill was brought back by the old regime. Black Adam and Shazam were going to be affected. Like the Shazam director directly said they had to remove a scene from the beginning of the film that established that the suits changed because of the Flash. Like, there was cuts to these films when James Gunn and Safran took over that removed large elements. Like, and we still got Aquaman 2 coming, which features Ben Affleck, because they brought back Affleck to remove Keaton. So are they going to now replace Affleck with George Clooney? Like, what the hell are they doing? Like, see, like, the moment you start thinking about what they were doing the last 2 years, your mind just goes, what the fuck were they thinking? And then what's the end result? None of it makes sense.
None of it makes sense. And it's also like what I find fascinating with this is like and it's not a good thing or a bad thing inherently, was that the conclusion the movie reached was, like timelines are reset and things are weird now. Like, I don't know why part of me expected like the Flash to end with the Gunniverse.
Mm-hmm. I do. Like, see, here's the thing. Everyone keeps talking about how this ending has been so ambiguous and they don't know what's coming next. I take it as a very concrete, we're done with this. Yep. With these, Aquaman 2 is coming out. But like
who's to say Aquaman 2 isn't still just in the Snyderverse proper? That's also a full possibility that like you could even make an argument that between movies, inexplicably, Barry runs back to the Snyderverse.
Yeah.
Where there isn't George Clooney Batman.
I love the idea that like the punishment for everything that's happened to the Snyderverse and everything that's done to me personally is that I got relegated to a Clooneyverse. That just makes me happy. It's the only joke I laughed out loud at in the theater. Well, purposefully laughed out loud at.
We've kind of like swirling around it here. How did we feel about Affleck's performance? Because you said you felt it felt phone dead.
Affleck or
I'm sorry, Keaton. Thank you.
Keaton. I think he did fine. Like, I wasn't upset with how he did. It just like it felt separate from, because specifically, see, like, I'm Batman. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Like, those line reads feel so abstract in comparison to what's happening around him. And then after I saw the movie, and this is why I almost want to go see it again just to confirm this, but I'll wait till it's on streaming because I'm not paying a movie ticket again. Plus, I want to see it flounder as hard as it can at the box office. I want to make sure this thing flops, which I have already not contributed to.
Christ,
just like, I'm bitter. And so I want to confirm, like, am I crazy to feel this? Or what? And like, was it only like this in a few scenes, or was it like this the whole movie? And I only caught it in a couple lines.
So I think like what you said there, something that resonated with me, because being in a early screening where it was not that full, they had those moments like the MCU where they set it up for the punchline and they know the crowd is about to react, but there was no reaction.
Yeah.
And it just sits there for a second. You're like, ooh, they missed the mark on this delivery and the execution. And I definitely felt that here. I don't think you're going crazy.
I'm Batman. So I talk shit about the I'm Batman, like being a little exasperated in the trailer, and within the movie, like it has context for that. That let's get nuts. Oh my God. I can't believe they kept that in the movie. I don't understand who lied to them and told them that was going to be a crowd pop. Like and
you can feel it. And that was part of what led into they did this in response to like a leak of No Way Home.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, literally the last episode I was on, Jared, you and I talked about like, oh, No Way Home has these applause pauses that I don't care they have because the theater experience was worth it for that movie.
Yeah.
And I could absolutely see them writing this going, people go nuts for Keaton's Batman. People love Keaton's Batman. And because it's Batman, like that's what you're selling the movie on. The trailer was selling the movie on Keaton's Batman. Like, they really thought this was going to pop off in the box office and people were going to be crowding the theaters and losing their minds over everything Keaton did.
Well, I just, out of curiosity, I want to see what the fuck they would have done with Bale.
Yeah.
Like, what's your moment for Bale? Like, yeah, you get him to go, I'm Batman. But like, what's your let's get nuts? Do you find a way for him to go, I'm not wearing hockey pants? Like, what the fuck is your crowd?
He would. That's exactly what he said. Yeah, you just
apropos.
Congratulations.
Nothing. Apropos.
Get on the picket line, Ryder.
I can just imagine, like, how do we work this out? So they drop Barry's parents into a random fucking, like, I don't know, shipyard, and you just have Bale go, where is it? Where is it? It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, that would have been it. That would have been it. Oh, fuck. I actually kind of want to see that because it would have been a fucking mess. Like,
oh my God. I just listen, hot take. I like Batman 89 a lot. It's fun. It looks fun.
I think 89 is a masterpiece, so it's
I'm not in love with Keaton as Batman. Like, he's iconic, but it's like I'm not super married to his performance.
Mm-hmm.
So like the way people like Michael Keaton is Batman. Like today, I'm sad we lost Batgirl and like this whole Batman Beyond thing that went down the fucking tubes because Flash underperformed. And like I would have loved to have seen those to see Michael Keaton like get to stretch his chops a little bit because frankly, I don't think Batman 89 and just movies in general were like prepared to make a superhero deep and like prepared to have like Batman be as complicated a person as he is in the comics. So I'd love to get to see Michael Keaton do like Old Man Bruce in Beyond or Batgirl. I think that'd be really fucking cool. It's just like I'm happy to see somebody with pointy ears and a cape beat the dog shit out of somebody and fly a bat-shaped plane and drive a car that's shaped like a fucking bat. Like I am a bat mark. I am in. But like Keaton specifically, I'm like, oh, let's get nuts. I'm like, this is fucking sad. I am not feeling anything right now.
And like part of the issue, like one of the big negatives of this whole multiverse thing we've been going through, besides everyone complaining about it all the time, like they're not going to go see every multiverse movie, is that now the idea of casting an actor, like it already wasn't on the table, but now it's really off the table of casting an actor in a role and having them not be that specific version. Like if you saw Michael Keaton as Batman in any other movie, they would be way too afraid to not be like, no, this is Batman 89.
Yeah.
Like, and you can say he's not in this movie. He is. He has the Batmobile. Like his suits are all the same, down to the fact that the neck doesn't move. His Batmobile's the same, all of his gear's the same.
They go to the extent for Barry to be like, oh, hey, look. Like Bruce being some kind of sick fuck kept that as like a trophy in his car.
Yeah. So
which
like
is weird on its face, but
so a Batman Beyond story that has Keaton's Batman, I don't think I would have dug it as much, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
Because then it would have been Batman 89 being that Bruce instead of Michael Keaton just being able to act.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. Well, that's my thing, and you and I always say that. Like anytime there's a multiverse thing, that was our big thing with No Way Home, where it was like, yes, Toby and Andrew may be coming back, but we don't know that they're playing their movie counterparts. Like I know there was that like infamous fan art where it's like symbiote Andrew and like Last Stand Toby, but like it could have been that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that said, so speaking of the multiverse stuff, because I know we're coming up on time here soon for Armin, Travis and I might still keep going after Armin has to bounce. We'll see if we have anything else to say. I do want to talk two-prong CGI and like the multiverse cameos. Because I will say, and I had a conversation with a friend of the show, Alden Diaz, the other day, and I don't think this nuance is brought to the CGI conversation as often as it should be, because I think a lot of the time it's implied, but we don't say it out loud enough. Poor CGI, whether or not that is that is a point of contention for you as a viewer, falls on the backs of studios and those who are underpaying and overworking the artist and not on the artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And just up top, I do want to make that distinction that again, like when we're talking about like, oh, this looks like ass, this is not because of the artist. It is because of working conditions. Hollywood, fucking stop doing that. That said, sure, there were some shots that looked shoddy. I'm going to take Andy Muschietti's side. I see what he meant with the like artistic decision stuff. I do not think, for me, there is an obvious delineation between that looked kind of funky and like the Polar Express faces. I think the like Polar Express looking stuff within the Speed Force and in the Time Bowl, as Barry puts it, I think that is intentional. I think that is, I do think it is intentionally distorted. And I keep like, it looks like the Polar Express, so I keep calling it that. I do think
I'll
that's
give my take when I
intentional.
come back. I have to go pee.
Okay, go pee. But anyway, with regards to that, before Travis gets back, before we dig into the cameo stuff.
Okay, so you mentioned that, and I can agree. Like to a part of me agrees. Fine, if you
whether it works or not is a different conversation.
If you wanted,
I'm just saying, I think you can tell when it is on purpose. This looks fucking weird.
I can kind of see what you're going for, but my whole issue is the rest of the CG elsewhere doesn't look that good either. Like when somebody put together that scene of the two Flashes and Supergirl standing together and added the Battle Royale Fortnite skin over it, it was indistinguishable. Like there is a lot of shoddy CG. And again, I'm friends with people that work in the industry. I am friends with people that have been overworked by these studios. So I am not shitting on these people and friends of mine. I'm shitting on the corporate overlords that demand this type of work in these hours and these ridiculous scenes at the 11th hour. But I will say this. The cameos for me, and to me, I know some people feel differently about this, and I want to explain this in a way that I think is simple. When I play pro wrestling games, which I play all of them, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. I never, ever play as dead wrestlers or download or create dead wrestlers. To me, it is an uncomfortable thing. Maybe it's just me. So when I saw dead actors on the screen, I did not enjoy it. It takes me out of it, and it reminds me that these actors have passed away, some from horrific accidents. And I look at it and I go, oh, man. And to me, the scene of Superman and Supergirl standing there really did not land. I felt uncomfortable watching it. Whereas to the Nicolas Cage thing, I was like, oh, hell yeah. We got to see the sequence from this movie that exists in the fucking multiverse. That's incredible. I just felt uncomfortable with dead actors. So I know that's just me. There's probably some other people that feel that way, but I did not like that they CG'd them. And then that they also looked like claymation almost. It just did not sit well with me.
I that is valid, Travis.
Pretty much everything Armin said. Like maybe not to the same extent. CG wise, yes, I agree that it does look noticeably different in the Speed Force, and that like sure you can say that that's. Whatever.
Like when Andy Machete said it is intentionally, like the CGI intentionally looks
distorted.
Weird. That's what I'm saying. Again, a matter of execution, whether or not you like it, that is a different conversation. Right. I think the people who did the whole, like you're preemptively trying to get ahead of criticism, I do not think that was fair in hindsight, is what I'm trying to say. Is that there was an artistic decision made. Execution is a different convo.
And I also, one of the other reasons I want to watch The Flash at home is I want to turn the contrast on my TV way high up and watch the Batman sequence again. Like when they're in Serbia or whatever.
Okay.
Not Serbia. Siberia. There it is. Other S one. Because like I could tell, but the theater was dark enough that it's hard to like they hide it with the shadow of the room they're in that like that's a PlayStation 3 Batman. That's a PlayStation 3 Batman. And yeah, as like you have so much to work with. Grant Gustin and John Wesley Shipp do not show up in that sequence.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill does not show up in that sequence. Tyler Hoechlin does not show up in that sequence. The super people don't need to be there. This is not a super person movie. It's a Flash movie. Like
that was what really confused. Like I think that's my biggest thing about that scene.
It does nothing because Flashpoint isn't a multiverse story.
Yeah.
It's not a multiverse story. It's a time travel story.
Like I was actually talking to a friend of mine because I rewatched Crisis on Infinite Earths a couple weeks ago. I bought like the foreign Blu-ray that they released of all the episodes in one. It's like literally like a movie. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I watched it before I went and watched the early screening of The Flash. And to me, I think that was a mistake because I was like, if they wanted to just toss this in there, they could have literally spliced scenes from Crisis Put them all in there. They perfectly work, especially the scene from like Batman 89 where the news reporter stands up and looks up at the sky and shit's going. I'm like, this would have perfectly fit into this sequence. And I think it would have actually made it better. But I don't know. Like I have a lot of questions watching this film. And again, I saw this film like 2 fucking months ago, so I've forgotten a good amount. And also the edibles kick in real hard. So, it is what it is. So I'm going to have to rewatch it and do a commentary on it to really understand it in like a month when it's dumped on digital, because they announced today it's coming in like 3 weeks. So I'll watch it again. But there was a lot of missed opportunities, especially with the cameos and sequences and Flash universes. Like, why didn't you put Grant in there? If you wanted goodwill, you put fucking Grant in there. That dude's carried the Flash boots for a decade. So it's...
Yeah.
I agree with you a lot on that. I was, and I can my thing with the appearance of performers who have since passed. I think I've said this on TNET before. Like, I will align with whatever families and estates say. Like, and people will often make the argument like, oh yeah, well, you can always have like someone who's just kind of a piece of shit who will do whatever they say for a buck. To that, I'll say, yeah, sure. But also, like, I'm sure whomever is chosen for blank estate was chosen for a reason. So I kind of default there. Like, if a relative, if a loved one who has been given the ability to make those decisions say, I think such and such would not mind, or such and such would even be happy to even posthumously put the cape and cowl on, or put the cape on again, that they would love to, and they jump to it. And until I hear that like the Reeve or Reeves estates or the West estate was like, we said no and Batman and these Supermen are in it anyway, then I'll have more of like oh, this is fucked up. But it's more just like a why question. Like truly it is like, for me, it is much less to do with the ethics. And Armin, your approach to like the wrestler stuff and your mentality on it entirely is completely valid, and I agree with in part. For me, it's just a question of why.
We also haven't mentioned the Jay Garrick cameo, because the actor playing Jay Garrick was like, holy shit, it does look like me. Everybody says it looks like me. Nobody told me it's me. Is it me? I don't know. Like, what happened?
Yeah, and that's where my I don't know what the nature of this was, and I'm gonna hope it was good comes into. But like, I just don't understand what was happening there. I don't it wasn't at first. I didn't even understand, grasp until the worlds literally started hitting each other that it was like a world collision thing. And I love that they like visually brought the DC multiverse to life. That was cool. But like, what's happening? I don't it just, it was strange. It felt like the movie pressed pause on itself.
Yeah.
To show these to us. And like, it just, I wish they had, if they wanted to do this so badly, I wish they would have found a more organic way to do it. Because it just felt abrupt and sudden, and
that's the part that makes me like, that part could very much just be a reaction to No Way Home.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, there was basically no real people in any of that section. Mm-hmm. There was, which might also be part of the reason that like Cavill and Hecklin and Bale or even Affleck or Pattinson or whoever, like, besides real world reasons why they're not there, is like they thought of this last minute, scraped it together in CGI and shoved it in the movie. But like, Flashpoint isn't a multiverse story. It's very contained.
Yeah, and I guess that like, and maybe this is something we can lay at the feet of Endgame, that like that Endgame kind of made time travel and multiverse one thing for a lot of people, to the point where like when Batman goes to break down like multi-reality traversal, like he directly calls attention to he calls out Endgame. with the pasta metaphor, where he's like, you've been told, like, when you go back and you change something, you haven't changed your own timeline. You've created a branch timeline, where in reality, here's the fucking spaghetti.
And honestly,
which I do like that. I do like that explanation a lot. I thought it was very entertaining.
I think it's honestly, that explanation is even better than the one they gave in like actual Flashpoint. Because like in the comic and in the animated movie, Reverse Flash describes it as like you punched a hole in a piece of glass, like in a windshield. The cracks aren't going to scatter one way. It's a radiation effect. But I think seeing it on like the timeline metaphor makes it click a lot more for people.
Yeah. So I always accepted this was going to be some type of multiverse thing, but I just don't understand like what was happening there. Like if they wanted to do that, I think it would have been cooler if like every time like Otherberry reloaded this battle on Earth, like some of these other heroes were present.
Yeah.
Like we're in a different place and oh shit, that's Christopher Reeve beating the shit out of Michael Shannon. And then boom, reset it again. Oh, there's Adam West. Like, you know, like that's like the shuffle you keep pressing.
Right. Like I can only imagine a scene. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I can imagine a scene where Barry like resets it and he's like, Superman, I need your help. Here comes Kingdom Come, Brendan Routh. And you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. Bro, I would have fucking exploded. But like they went so safe and basic to like it feels like that the movie was so ambitious and then they just shrunk it down, but kept sticking with the ambition and said, well, what if we just make these scenes small little cutaway cameos? Like I feel like there's a better version of this film somewhere out there that unfortunately we will never see. You know, like there's probably deleted scenes, extended scenes, sequences that.
Oh man, we know the fucking stuff with Supergirl being cut from the end.
Oh, Supergirl, Henry Cavill, more Wonder Woman. I mean, I'll tell you off the air the actual ending of the film, which I am not allowed to say because they will trace it to the dude and it will melt your fucking brain. What the original ending was. So trust me, there's a lot that was cut out of this film.
Well, Armin, I know we're coming up on time here. So if you got a split, we can absolutely do that. If you want to do plugs and then we can talk and I can cut it out. Because we still have our Q&A segment to do as well.
Yeah.
But I know you got to go. So I feel the same way when I ask you and Mitch or like whenever Star Wars Explained is on, where I'm like, do your plugs because, you know, people are fucking don't know who you are. But for the sake of, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. Armin, where can people find you?
Okay, so the only thing I tell you, don't bother YouTube or any of that shit. See how it says Instagram at Arma2236. Just follow me there in case you want to see pictures of me sweaty and me every day sharing shit that's Ninja Turtles and or like Masters of the Universe. Occasionally, OnlyFans stuff from my wife. So there you go. That's all I focus on that. So just follow me there.
And the Roosevelts. Don't forget the Roosevelts.
Roosevelt shirts. I constantly upload. Every weekend, you'll get 2 photos of me in a different shirt at the gym and looking sweaty before and after. So
what really entertains me is I'm pretty sure after like your 5th or so Roosevelt's post, Travis I think messaged me. He's like, "Is Armin wearing Roosevelt's?" I'm like, "You're goddamn right he is." And you're next, motherfucker.
So here's the thing that happened the other day. I get this 2 random packages, and they're in a box. And my daughter is like, she looks at me, she looks at my wife, she goes, I bet you there is another shirt and at least 3 He-Man figures somewhere in there. And I'm like, I don't just order these fucking things. Stop calling me out. I open it, 5 He-Man figures and 4 shirts. And I just threw them on the floor and I said, go fuck off.
I love the idea of like guess Armin's package of the day. That sounds like such a fun household game.
Literally every day.
I love that. Guess the fucking
take a guess.
Hey, like I said, you poor unfortunate soul getting stuck with the fucking Hasbro license hitting right now.
It's true.
Anyway, we're going to be moving into our Q&A segment here. We'll probably still be talking Flash throughout it. I know one of the questions is very much Flash related. So yeah, stay tuned
I have so
for
much to say
Q&A.
about
And we are back again. A big thank you to Armin for coming by. We love to have him on and talk cape shit. Obviously, you know, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if not for me becoming a fan of his back when I was a wee laddie. I want to talk. You know, we obviously had the intention of doing our Q&A posts and stuff. And this is, you know, we didn't get a chance to last week on TNAP. We did it on KNR recently, which was a lot of fun. And to our $10 patron, Ray Clausen, who very generously decided they wanted their Patreon shout out to go to Equity Texas, or Texas Equity rather, instead of themselves every week. I'm shouting them out now because they did submit a question last week, but we're not going to be answering that one on this one. They're going to have a news roundup coming out later this week. I mean it this time. I'm not going to get sick. And we're going to be asking Ray's first question next week. And we're going to be asking Ray's question this week on this episode, because I think it does pertain to a shadow that hangs over the Flash in a very big way, and then we can kind of start to talk about the Ezra Miller of it all, just because there's a lot to talk about with this movie. So Ray's question, also Paco / Alex Jones, we'll be answering your question on KNR because it is a Star Wars one. So this is from Ray Clausen. As many people in the film industry have been found out to be terrible in a variety of different ways, what are some changes you've made or not made by the way you consume certain nerdy films or shows? Are there films or shows that you can no longer enjoy? For example, The Avengers with Joss Whedon. My apologies for a downer question, but I'm curious as I too wrestle with films due to multiple allegations and convictions of those who have made the media that I enjoy. I will say, for me personally, and I said this last week talking about Ezra. I think I think a lot of people's mileage varies. You know, I think that there are. I try not to impose like a moral imperatives on stuff like this, simply because, like, I think it's really hard. Like for me personally, like I've made it abundantly clear, even if I wanted to like separate the art from the artist with like J.K. Rowling, for example, it doesn't I personally can't enjoy Harry Potter the way I used to. A great example is whenever I was in Philadelphia for Fan Expo Philly, the only fucking thing on TV was a goddamn Harry Potter marathon happening on E. So it was just on in the background. And like, you know, whenever we came back to the hotel to change to go to like the Roosevelt's meetup afterwards, you know, people were taking quick showers, getting changed, kind of, you know, trying to, you know, get their sea legs back from after the con. I was just watching it and I was like semi enjoying it. And then like every couple seconds when I was getting like really invested in a scene and like my love for that fandom was rushing back, like it would hit this dam of knowing what's happened with Rowling. And the enjoyment would just immediately leave me. Like I would, and I would just get invested in again. And oh, this is so good. Yeah. Like
I think
it just,
for me personally, Harry Potter is like a special case, almost, where like sometimes it does genuinely ruin my enjoyment of something if I know someone's, you know, truly, utterly terrible. Not so much like even Avengers. I still enjoy watching. You know, maybe because I never really was like that big of a Joss Whedon fan that it didn't sting me as much.
mm-hmm.
You know, Harry Potter in particular, newer patrons that weren't around for the due back days, and like, I love to hate watch something. It's one of my, and that's the thing too. Like I've said so much shit about The Flash. I will give it one thing. I've thought about it more in this past week and a half than I've thought about pretty much any Marvel release sans like Guardians 3 in the last 6 to 8 months. Not for good reasons, right? We're like the Marvel I just passively enjoy. I'm like, yep, another one that I got my money's worth of entertainment and I moved on. And The Flash I've just been ruminating over, maybe because I was already a fan of the Flashpoint storyline and whatever. But like, I love to dislike what I'm watching.
This is Travis's toxic trait.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Titans got not quite as bad, so it was too boring. Like on the meter, right? There's either I love the thing that's up here, or I really, really hate the thing. And Titans was here for 2 seasons, and season 3 dropped to like here, and it wasn't fun anymore, and I dropped it entirely. Same with the CW, where like the CW was either here for me, like I loved the beginning of Arrow,
or this is so batshit insane, I'm still enraptured, just in the opposite direction.
Right. And like I just started this week, I started Superman and Lois like properly. I watched the pilot when it aired, and then I didn't watch anything else of the show. Utterly phenomenal. The best live action Superman ever put to screen. I will stand by that. I know other people have said it. That show is absolutely fucking incredible.
Oh, we have another contender in the mix that we can talk about later this week.
That's true. I'm excited, but making my way back around to the point, Harry Potter used to be here and has swung over to here. I love nothing more than to viciously insult J.K. Rowling while I watch those movies, because of all the things where I'm like, honey, you're projecting. It's okay. You weren't actually that much of like a separated nerd as you thought you were. Honey, it's okay. Like every line of dialogue Hermione has where she's like, you idiot, I'm so much smarter than you. And like more so even in the books. And I haven't read the books since I read them as a kid, but like, because I can't read. But the
another holdover from the Dewback days.
Always. Why do you think I read comic books and manga, man? It's all pictures.
Hold on. Is that a new wrinkle in the Travis can't read thing? Is that you don't actually know what's happening? You just use the pictures for context clues.
Oh, dude, I read like raw manga, like Japanese manga, because I'm like at a point I'm like I've seen like the rough cut out
Travis
of the plot.
Takes his manga raw.
I watched like most of the back half of Dragon Ball Super in Japanese without subtitles because the plot of the back half of Dragon Ball Super is pointless. It does not matter. It's all visuals. I don't need to be told by dialogue what's happening. I can figure it out. It's fine. But yeah, so like, and obviously depending on the thing, like if I had to keep spending money to watch Harry Potter, I wouldn't be. But that has clearly swung over here. Most of the time for me, it comes into the middle of like, well, now I just can't enjoy this anymore. But even like, it's one of those, it's knowing that someone was hurt in the making of a thing.
Yeah, I did see for me. I'm trying to like find my words here. I want to use Ray's example here with Avengers real quick, because like people know, like I love Angel. I've not seen Buffy. I've watched all of Angel multiple times. And hell, even yesterday I tweeted about how like making a joke about like, David or James Gunn and Andy Muschietti, like, please cast David Boreanaz as Batman. It's right fucking there. Travis, watch the first season of Angel. You will agree with me completely. Like you will be, and the fact that David Boreanaz is older now makes him an even better pick for the version of Batman they want to do, who has like a fucking kid and probably a whole ass Bat family. But no, Joss Whedon, it's weird. I do not find myself as morally compromised watching Avengers. Age of Ultron is a little different because there's that like really weird subtext with Black Widow that, like, again, and this is also a conversation. This is also very much a conversation about privilege as well. That, like, because one may be unaffected by something, that you do not take umbrage with whatever reason such and such has been decided to be kind of a shitty person. So, like, that whole scene where Black Widow calls herself a monster after the flashback to the Red Room, as a man, I never picked up on the subtext that had something to do with her being infertile. To me, she's like, I'm a monster because I fucking kill people as a job and have since I was a child. And that's where I thought that was going. I didn't understand that, like, like as a filmmaker and as a writer, Joss Whedon is drawing a direct connection to Natasha being sterilized to, like, her considering herself a monster. And so there's stuff like that. So, like, I feel a little, I don't want to say icky watching Age of Ultron, but there are elements of Age of Ultron where I feel a little bit more. There's Joss Jossin. There's Joss being a Jossity old Joss. That does make me uncomfortable. Angel, however, is a different conversation. That I have a harder time with. I am at with Angel where I was with Harry Potter maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where it was like, this person sucks, but when I think of this show, I think of David Boreanaz, I think of Charisma Carpenter, I think of the performers, you know. And when I go back to Angel, I find myself going back mostly for David Boreanaz's performance because I love that character. And you and I had this conversation back on fucking Hall of Heroes, back, you know, early into Teen App, where it was like, fuck J.K. Rowling. I'm not necessarily here for the story, Sherrod. I'm here for the characters that are brought to life by these actors. I'm here for the environment of Hogwarts that, for me as a Harry Potter fan, was brought to life by, you know, the filmmakers. And I find her as like an easy person to come back to. But like in the, you know, shifting to like a less nerdy thing, but just music in general, I also talk about how, like, I've had a hard time with Ye, you know? Like,
dude. I don't even, like, I have a hard time, and not that he was ever outrightly canceled, but I have a hard time listening to Panic now.
Yeah.
Because of Brendan, and he, you know, nowhere near on the level of the Jews did me dirty Kanye, but like, I have a harder time when, like, the especially the person, and if it's an actor, now granted Ezra Miller is an exception because I paid money to see them in a film twice. They were in this movie twice. And no, despite what anyone tries to convince me, having a second more annoying Barry did not work. It made the movie so much worse.
See, this is going to sound crazy, and this is more just a thing about The Flash in general, real quick. I've been trying to, like, put this in words, and I don't think it's made sense yet, but I think you might get what I'm trying to say.
Give it to me.
Ezra Miller is a great actor, and the emotional scenes Barry has, they like, you know, when he Barry is, you know, saying goodbye to his mother, or he's like trying to, when he's trying to level with the younger Barry about, dude, we can't keep running back. We need to just let this happen. There is no obvious solution. We need to just let it go. Like those moments where he's like, where he's like throwing his, where this is where it gets complicated, where they are throwing their entire ass into Barry's performance, into their performance as Barry. They're great because those are like, you're an actor, you're good at like making emotions happen. When Ezra is trying to bring the character of Barry Allen to life, I fucking hate it because I hate this version of Barry Allen. It does not feel like Barry to me at all. and it just does not work. It just does not work. They shine in those super emotional moments because they're a good actor. It's that like baseline, like, you know,
and
that
that comes...
it's so, if you're a good actor, it's hard to fuck that up, if that makes sense. Like you you physically can't fuck up this scene where you're playing a character who's saying goodbye to a loved one you know is about to die. However, when you're given material that just fundamentally doesn't work, it fundamentally doesn't fucking work. You know?
The 2022 / December of 21 was the year for me of, this whole time it's been the material, not the actor, and I finally understand that. Between Andrew Garfield and Hayden Christensen, for me, like, those were my two big, like, oh my god, I'd already kind of come around on it by then, thankfully, but seeing them given material that really works for them and they can really chew on, but also feels like their character, and also like it just worked for me so well that, like, I'm not trying to, despite everything about them, dock Ezra's acting performance in the movie because of, like, not liking that characterization. I have it, like I said, I have notes, and like one of my notes is the quips Barry gives don't work. Either Barry don't work because no one's responding to them.
Yeah.
And the ironic kind of physicality of the Flash, where Barry Allen is the fastest man alive, but he's late to everything, and he's also incredibly clumsy. Right?
Oh, that's the other fucking thing. No, all his friends are assholes. Like, there's no one pleasant. Like, it's just like this, like, miserable fucking Barry Allen. You know?
And it feels like, because, like, the whole, like, oh, come on, Barry, you were late again, is supposed to be like, haha, sorry guys, I know, isn't it? Like, haha, I'm the Flash, haha.
Yeah,
right? Is how it's supposed to feel. But because this version of Barry Allen is, like, incredibly socially awkward and kind of just, for lack of a better picture, like, every time something like that would happen to Barry, I would imagine that scene of SpongeBob when he's told he used too much sauce on the Krabby Patty. He's like, like, that image played in my brain every time someone was like, Barry Allen, you suck, as a joke.
Yeah, you're totally right. For me, the whole, like, Barry, you're late again. Barry's typically charming enough that it doesn't, like,
Barry has a natural charisma.
He's charming enough, and also has, pardon me, he is so good at his job that it's like, okay, you're like 15 minutes late, but I also know you're about to slam dunk on something we thought was going to be impossible. You know, where it's not supposed to be like fucking Sam Raimi, Peter Parker, where it's like, you were late for, like, you're 15 minutes late, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking knee now. Where it's this, like, constant level of, like, the world hates you, go fuck yourself. And on top of that, you're incredibly awkward. But anyway, all of that to say, now we've used examples, going back to this great question from Ray Clausen.
Yes.
We've been using examples that were kind of like, you know, like, for me, I draw the line so hard with J.K. Rowling because of the line she drew with her own work, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
She drew the line of, you know, if you support me, if you support Harry Potter, you support me. And she made that declaration of war and completely changed the dynamic there. So for me, I'm like, well, no, I don't fucking support Harry Potter anymore then. You know, like, I'll even say, you know, Roosevelt's has come up on this fucking podcast more than it normally does. I can't tell you how sad I was with the Roosevelt's Harry Potter stuff. Like, and you know, corporations and companies and getting these big IPs, you know, whatever. I know people who have brand deals with Hot Topic who boycotted Hogwarts Legacy. Like, you know, capitalism gonna capitalism. You can still walk right into a Hot Topic and buy a fucking Slytherin skirt. And they took money from Hot Topic. And I'm not trying to cancel or call any of those people out. It's just a sticky situation. You know, I want a Roosevelt's brand deal more than fucking anybody. I can tell you this, among the 80 plus shirts I have, I'm not going to be adding a Harry Potter one to it. I wanted to. There are some of those shirts that look fucking great. I never wanted to buy any of the polos just because I'm not a polo kind of guy. They did polos for each of the houses, and I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you I started salivating a little bit of that Gryffindor one. I just can't. I just physically can't. And maybe this is going to be a little too real quick, but like my little sister loves Harry Potter. I cannot bring myself to tell her the truth about J.K. Rowling.
I literally, dude, my cousins just got through it. I don't know if they might still be in it. A Harry Potter phase. They're like 7 and 10, right in Kira's range. And I was the one Christmas, Harry Potter everything. I wanted Harry Potter everything. They're talking to me about the movies because, like, obviously, and they're like, "Oh, which one's what's this?" And I had to be like, "Oh man, I can't."
You almost have to transport yourself back to like an earlier time in your life.
I was like, I can't make the joke. Like, I can't even hint at this idea.
Yeah.
Because, like, I can't do that to these kids.
Yeah.
You know? And it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks so bad. Even, like, down to fucking YouTubers, man. I remember we had tickets to Gus's second tour, Gus Johnson.
Yeah.
We had tickets to a second tour. And after everything that came out about him, we got them refunded. Like, Lexi asked me, she was like, I don't know how you feel. These were a gift for you. Because, like, I've seen them live before. Like, I own Gus merch.
Yeah, you and I both listen to Gus and Eddie all the time.
And she was like, how you feel? I'm like, I don't want to go see him. I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's part of
my little sister, it's so fascinating you bring up Gus Johnson. I kind of forgot about him for a second. There came a point where I showed my little sister some Gus videos.
Yeah.
Like she fucking thought Pillow Guy was the funniest shit she'd ever seen in her life. You know, quoted it constantly. And one day she was like, "Hey, can we watch Pillow Guy?" And I told her. And again, granted, like, yo, you know, you could explain to her Gus Johnson was a piece of shit. Why can't you explain J.K. Rowling? Because the stakes are much fucking higher with fucking Harry Potter. And I was able to look at her like, well, the Pillow Guy, like, you know, was like really like unnecessarily cruel and mean to his girlfriend. And now you're having a moment where I have to like make clear to her that like we do not reward abusive fucking behavior because I'm talking to a little girl. So I'm like, you know, but like I don't know how an adult would have looked at me and gone like, George Lucas hates black people. Here's a fucking Mace Windu action figure. Like, I don't know how I would have handled that. My brain would have caught on fucking fire. You know, like so I have like a weird relationship there where, like, you know, Kira likes to wear Roosevelts like I do, you know, like she thinks they cool and she wants to be like me, you know. So I've gotten her a few shirts, and when that Harry Potter collection came out, I was like, it happened at November. The Harry Potter collection for Roosevelt's first one came out in November, and I was like, this is such a layup of a fucking Christmas present. This is such a slam dunk of a Christmas present. And I was even starting to rationalize with myself for a minute there, where I was like, I considered trying to cop one of the shirts, and I was like, well, I'll use one of my coupons. There'll be like $50 off. So the shirt I really only would have given like $20 to J.K. Rowling, you know, where I'm like trying to rationalize with myself, or I'm like, oh, like because there's like so with Roosevelt stuff, there's the Roosevelt's like basically fan Facebook group that's run by the company. And then there's like a buy, sell, trade Facebook group for like a secondary market for people trying to flip shirts or like, you know, kind of downsize and sell the shirts off to people who they know would appreciate them. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'll go through buy, sell, trade. And if there's like an extra large Harry Potter Roosevelt, I could buy that one and I'll buy it off of somebody else. And, you know, I'm going through all these fucking hoops in my head, you know? Because it's like I don't know how to like let it fucking kid down easy with that. So like it's weird, you know. Another great example for me, The Usual Suspects, is one of my favorite movies of all time. And in a post Bryan Singer, Kevin Spacey, knowing the truth about them world, That's a harder watch.
Yeah, I didn't finish. I didn't finish House of Cards because of Kevin Spacey.
Most people didn't. Most people didn't. I remember I Googled the actor who got cast as Superman today, and I legitimately was like, okay, what have they been in? I want to try to watch something before we do the news roundup. And I was like, oh, well, they were in House of Cards, so that's off the table. And again, it's not a moral imperative. If Joe fucking Donut tomorrow decides, I was meant to get around to House of Cards, and they can stomach watching Kevin Spacey in something, I don't have an issue with them. Now, if they start to go, if they then go separate the art from the artist to somebody who cannot physically watch House of Cards now, that's a different conversation. Yeah. But like with Usual Suspects, a couple years ago, just because like it had come up, I was like, it's one of my favorite movies. I don't remember it was with Spencer and Joel. I don't remember the context, but I quoted the lineup scene. The context we were in for me to go, give me the fucking keys, the fucking cocksucker, motherfucker, like Stephen Baldwin in that scene. I don't know how that came up, but it did. And I was like, we should watch The Usual Suspects today. It's one of my favorite fucking movies. And we sit down to watch it. And like, I was in that like head rush of like, oh, fucking Kaiser Soze lineup scene. There's a great these great actors. Benicio del Toro is fucking great in this movie. And I'm like having this head rush about how much I love the goddamn Usual Suspects. And we're sitting down, written and directed by Bryan Singer. I went, motherfucker. And then immediately like went, oh yeah, horrible people made this movie between Spacey and Bryan Singer. You know? So like I can still watch The Usual Suspects, but it's not as fun. It's not as fun for me as it used to be. You know, I've not that I'm like going out of my way to listen to Ye anymore. But like I was listening to I just like let my phone go music wise, and a song came on that he has a feature on. You know, and like the reason I just choose not to listen to Kanye's music anymore is it like I heard that Ye feature and I was like, oh god damn, he's so good. He's so good on the fucking mic. He's so good. And then like I was like, miss it. And then like I can't go miss it through a whole album. I can't. I physically can't. I will get viscerally upset trying to do that. Like truly. You know, it was really funny. Levi, who's like constantly always trying to expand his musical horizons. You know, I gave him a handful of hip hop recommendations back in 2020. You know, I was like my favorites are Kendrick Lamar, Ye, Tyler the Creator. You know, I was like, you know, MF Doom is really fun. You know, like once you can fully appreciate like hip hop as an art form, like MF Doom is one of those acts that'll really like change the way you listen to hip hop. Jay-Z is a standard. You know, like you know, he was asking me questions, and like he messaged me. It was a couple months ago. He was like, I finally got around to listening to some of the Ye albums you recommended to me, and he listened to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And Yeezus, which are my two favorite Kanye albums. And he's like, these are fucking incredible. I said, yeah, it's a shame he's a piece of shit now. And he laughed and said the same thing. He's like, yeah. He's like, he's like, you know, it kind of haunts the music a little bit.
And to bring it around, like you said, the emotional scenes in this movie, I say in this movie, like we've been talking about The Flash, but in The Flash are well acted. Ezra Miller acts them very well in terms of like not thinking about what they've done in the past 2 years. And so when I was watching it and I was prepared for this, and it didn't hit as hard because I was never really an Ezra Miller fan to begin with, but watching it, I was like, you know, they really did have their career snuffed out. Like they were about to take off as an actor. And so, like suddenly all of that's gone. And this, and you know, it helped to pull away because again, I didn't like a lot of the emotional core of this movie. I feel like it was misplaced because of how Flashpoint is originally written versus how they transpose it into this movie. Didn't quite fit for me, but I definitely like. I at the very least can be like, Ezra's doing work with the script they were handed. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it is very much a question, that it's hard, and it's very much case by case, like I know it's hot button right now, and it's something that I'm not even sure if, I want to talk about it because it's important, but there also comes a point for me, as a content creator. I hate that fucking term. But it's an easy catch-all that, like, I start to question, like, am I even qualified to have this conversation? Where, like, I've seen developments in the Jonathan Majors case that changed the fucking nature of what we're saying and seeing. That add a new layer of doubt to this. That, like, makes the situation more complicated. And that's its own can of worms. How do you talk about that? Like, how does one go back to Multiverse of Madness? Because talking about that movie has now turned into, if you're praising it, you're like, oh yeah, the best part of that movie was Kang the Conqueror, asterisk. Because of that whole developing situation, which, again, like, we'll probably talk about on Friday for you guys. It's hard. It's very case by case. There are artists, and let that just represent the full gamut of people who get paid to be creative, who have shit in their past that they've taken accountability for and moved on from, and that, like, the world at large has agreed, like, you have, in the court of public opinion, served your sentence.
James Gunn.
James Gunn, Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre was a domestic abuser. And Dr. Dre has, like, very publicly been like, I was a rat bastard piece of shit. And I told my son that if you behave like me, we both deserve to get our fucking heads caved in. And the public at large has, like, forgiven Dre. And if you haven't, that is okay. I like, for me, like, it's one of those things, like, I feel kind of weird about it. But again, like, but I'm a hypocrite. I have the Chronic 2000 on vinyl. I don't fucking listen to Chris Brown. Like, he very much is still guilty in the court of public opinion. He has a flourishing career, but his name gets brought up in a conversation. It's always as, you're the guy who beat up Rihanna and you deserve to get your ass kicked in for it every day. Now, maybe it's because he's a lot less repentant for it than Dr. Dre is. And the fact that Dr. Dre is very publicly said, like, it is very, very publicly donated to causes, using his billions to affect change in the opposite direction of the harm he did. Like, it's very, very weird, complicated stuff. And, it's very case by case. I think that's the only way I can answer this question that is been going on for a minute.
and like, to that point, the Hogwarts. I remember when Hogwarts Legacy came out, and someone I follow on Twitter, a content creator I followed, like, since I was a kid. They did Call of Duty stuff way back when. They're a lefty now. They do, like, occasional politics stuff. They still play Call of Duty on Twitch.
Who is it?
Hutch. If you've heard of Hutch.
I've heard the name. I wasn't sure who you were talking about, but I've heard the name.
Old Call of Duty head. I love him. I don't watch his stuff anymore, mostly because, like, I'm not as in the COD anymore. But, like, he's very open about how he feels about things, and is one of those people that's like, if I get a wrong take, I am more than willing to, like, accept that it's a wrong take and apologize and, like, learn. As a white dude, that's our responsibility.
Just publicly take the fucking L and be an adult about it.
Yeah. Be like, I was uneducated about this thing, didn't know what I was saying or doing was harmful, have since become, and that, again, that range also varies on what the thing is. But I remember when Hogwarts Legacy came out, he was like, I understand ripping into, and he might have even played the game. I don't even remember. Again, I don't really watch his content anymore, but he was like, understandable if you don't want to watch someone play the game, or you don't want to buy the game, or you don't want to support a content creator, whatever. Don't rip into Joe Schmo. And again, separate from the Harry Potter discussion, for most other things, and even, again, Harry Potter depends on the brevity of it, where like, if someone in my personal life who has no social media presence is like, I got kind of like a rough thing going on, and I get to be a wizard for a little bit, and it makes me feel a little better.
Yeah. Are you going to tell that 8-year-old that Santa Claus isn't real?
Exactly.
It's hard. It's fucking hard.
I've had a rough day at work. I want to get a slice of pizza and watch the Avengers. I want to sit down with some of my favorite Gus Johnson sketches. I want to put Dr. Dre or Kanye on, like, on my record player and just vibe, because I don't have much else, and that's my happy place. Like, I don't think condemning the individual, especially individuals without influence, specifically.
Yeah. I think for me, the Hogwarts Legacy thing was weird. Like, I know a handful of people. I'm friends with a handful of people who bought it and played it. And, again, it's case by case. I was a little, I guess my issue with the Hogwarts Legacy discourse, when that was a thing still, was more to do with the people who wanted to use "there are no ethical consumption of capitalism" arguments to justify buying Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh yeah.
That's where I got frustrated, because for me it was like there was too much going on with Hogwarts Legacy.
I agree. And again, it just comes down to
at the same time that you have like the fucking, as we joked about, the Harry Potter and the Protocols of the Elders of Zion plot line in the fucking game, you also had J.K. Rowling every other day ratcheting up the rhetoric. It was like the developers were some fucking weirdos. Like, everything about Hogwarts Legacy was yikesy. And I'm not going to say that I passed like a moral judgment on it, on any of my friends who bought it and played it, but I was also like, come on, I'm not.
I will admit to you, I will admit live on air, I played it. I didn't pay for it. I paid $0 to play that game. That's the only reason I played it. And that's not even me trying to excuse it. It's like, I was offered, like, I will be able to give this to you for free. Do you want to play the game? I was like,
yeah,
you know what?
That was
sure.
That was what I mean. He was like, he had a copy of the game, and he was like, I have a code. I was given a code. This game kind of fucking sucks, but I was given a code. He said, he's like, I'm only playing it because I can play it for fucking free, and I can tell you, it's not worth your money anyway.
That's you can just be actively racist the whole game, which, again, didn't buy it, so I was able to find that funny and not offensive. But
yeah,
it's not even like oh wow, there's like some xenophobia and like in how the goblins are portrayed. It's just like you can actively be xenophobic the entire game. Like, all of your dialogue options have a like, I want to be racist.
I don't understand how that can be in place and people still defend the game, though. Like, that's my thing, is like, it just, again, I understand. Listen, I try not to pass too much judgment on Harry Potter fans, because, again, like, and I come back to George Lucas post Disney. I don't like, George Lucas could like kick a fucking puppy today and it doesn't matter towards Star Wars. Like, and thank God for that like my favorite thing is like safe forever. Like, yeah, like forever will the original like 6 movies have like an asterisk next to them. But like, so much of those movies are very publicly made by people who aren't George Lucas. Like it's Ben Burtt, it's Rick McCallum, it's Marshall Lucas, it's Irvin Kershner, it's Richard Marquand. Like like that is such a collaborative project that even then it doesn't all have to be about George. But like I don't know what I would have done if you looked me in my eyes and told me like here is this like heinous belief that George Lucas has, and this will forever color how you interact with Star Wars. And George Lucas is constantly telling you, if you support Star Wars, you support my out and out bigotry. I don't know how I'd process that. I don't know how I'd make peace with that. So I give Harry Potter fans a little bit of grace there, but also like I like the ones who knew better are the ones that I'm like, I don't appreciate that you did that. As a queer person, it pisses me off. As an ally to my trans friends, I'm frustrated by your decision here. I don't hate you. I'm not friends with you anymore, but I think you could have done better with your dollar, and I'm disappointed. Like that's where that's where I fall with that kind of thing. But
like you said, we keep going. We just keep going. This conversation never stops. It eats its own tail every like 15 minutes. But like you said, the no ethical consumption under capitalism, or I can do. I mean, like even like I just said, I played the game because it was free. Should I have done that? Probably not. Stand my ground, stand the picket line. But like, I at least didn't put a dime in J.K. Rowling's pocket.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to pretend like, well, I actually there's a reason why I can do this and not be a bad person. Like, no, there's a little bit of fault on me for that. I understand that.
Yeah.
And like, I just be an adult.
I think that's the best bow you can put on that. Like I said, Ray has another really fun question that I cannot wait to get into in our next episode. We're going to be talking about the Superman casting news. We're going to be talking about Secret Invasion episodes 1 and 2. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun, and we're going to be answering more questions. And I'm going to put another Q&A thing on Twitter so that Travis and I can answer your questions from people who aren't patrons and aren't just leaving them on the in the episode comment section. But if you do want your question answered next week, or not next week, later this week, drop them in the comments. If we get inundated with questions, I would be happy to have a backlog, and we will get to them as soon as we can. However, our patrons get priority every week. So that said, while I get something pulled up here, Travis, where can the people find you?
I put my handle on the thing this time. I did it.
I saw you did. I was so proud of you.
I've tweeted.
You did do that. However, I do need you to say it for the people who are listening.
I know. I'm at Travis Political on Twitter. I've tweeted more than like 4 times in the past week, so I figured it was time to put the handle down.
Let's get Travis back on Twitter.
I don't think my mental health is there yet. I need to go to therapy before I'm fully back on Twitter.
I try to avoid falling into the pitfall online that is often called digital blackface, where you like play like clips of black people saying something that like objectively neither of us could say.
I've never heard that terminology before, but also
it's very poignant though.
Yeah, like I do like that as a thing. Anyway, go on.
But because I wouldn't do that, I would never have it locked and loaded. But I really want to play the clip from Kendrick Lamar's United in Grief, Real Neighbor Need No Therapy, just as a response. But because I don't have that clip locked and loaded, because I would have no other reason to play it other than for somebody else to say that word I'm not allowed to say for me, I won't and I can't. But listen to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers on Spotify or wherever you get music. Solid Kendrick Lamar plug, because we know Kung Fu Kenny needs it from us. Anyway,
small up-and-comer Kendrick Lamar.
Small up-and-comer, multi-Grammy winner Kendrick Lamar. Man whose entire discography I own on vinyl, Kendrick Lamar. To bring it back to people who are a little bit more palatable, who I have on vinyl. But yeah, and I do just want to put the button on that conversation real quick before we really bring it home. Like I said, it's a case by case thing, you know, and like there are public figures who are complicated. Like I said with the Dr. Dre example, like society has generally agreed Dr. Dre has paid his penance and he's getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And as a fan of his work, I'm excited for him. I hate the thing he did in his past. I think it is morally reprehensible. However, unlike most of the other people who have done that, he publicly acknowledges it when asked about it and talks about how he has used his example as one to not replicate to his sons. So, you know, like just bringing it back there, it's all very complicated. But anyway, yeah. I don't know if you asked me where or not before I cut you off. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't yet. Yeah, just like reprimand people for having bad takes on why they can consume problematic things and not necessarily, again, dollar withstanding, consume. Like, again, I'm not going to bash anyone because they're like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my favorite show ever. And even that, like,
yeah,
it's my comfort show and I want to watch it. Cool. I'm happy for you, bestie.
Absolutely.
I can watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer because cancel culture is a menace. We need to have a discussion. we gotta sit down for a minute.
Yeah.
Right. And like, personally, if I'm like, I think we both experience the same thing. We're like, if it's tainted, it's tainted. And it's not even like I choose not to watch it or I have to fight watching it. It's like, oh man, my enjoyment's gone for this thing. That's it.
Yeah.
You know? Jarod, where?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. You can also find me on Ionized Bastards, a Star Wars real play RPG show. We're gearing up for season 2 here. Very excited. I play Fabian Martell, a mysterious dark Jedi, along with Alden Diaz, Zuzo Yort, played by Dan Miller of Broaxium, and Jerry Cable from Bombadcast, and it's on the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel, hosted by Michael McCoy. You can find me competing in Epic Confrontations, a Star Wars trivia show put on by Eli from Star Wars in the Galaxy. I have a match, I believe, in September where I will be playing against a mystery opponent as my punishment for losing against Alden Diaz in an exhibition match. All I know about my mystery opponent is that they are a former Schmoedown player. I'm going to get put through a wall, and I probably deserve it. Speaking of Epic Confrontations, here is an Epic Confrontations exclusive. Hyperspace, the Epic Confrontations free-for-all event, will be happening on July 16th, and every single active member of the Nerd Academy podcast will be participating in Hyperspace. Connor's at the desk. Myself, Spencer, Travis, and Kaysen are all playing in the gauntlet. So tune in for the Hyperspace Gauntlet. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see Travis in the ring.
I'm either going to do no studying or have 85 tabs of Wikipedia open the day before. There is no in between. One of those things will
during. Happen. I was like, dude, don't tell me you're going to cheat.
No, absolutely not. No, I would much sooner make a fool of myself. I would much sooner answer Star Trek answers, which I also don't know. I would sooner answer all Star Trek answers to the questions and cheat that way. I would.
So
the sanctity of trivia.
For the sanctity, amen. I'm going to ask you a question, and it is okay if the answer is no, and my feelings will not be hurt.
Okay.
Have you watched any Epic Confrontations?
I have not. And like, not even in like an act of like, oh, I don't want to watch this. It's not the show. Like, there's no malice to not watching it. In fact, I do at some point need to apologize to Eli because he messaged me with the Epic Confrontations Twitter. And because I wasn't following it and he wasn't following me with it, like Eli and I follow each other personally.
Yeah.
But the podcast account wasn't following me. And so the message came in as a message request. I never like it wasn't even like you have an outstanding message request. I never got that until I DM'd Eli after we talked. He messaged me in fucking April.
Yeah, he's been putting out feelers for hyperspace for a hot minute.
I felt so bad. Like, and like,
you're not, for what it's worth, you are not the only person who's had that exact thing happen.
I had a feeling, and I'm just gonna blame Elon Musk, but also like,
sure, I always blame fuck Elon, absolutely.
Yeah. And like 85th reason when he messaged me was like right at the end of my semester. I was getting this new job ready to go. I wouldn't have had a correct answer for him yet. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm free weekends. It's all good. I have no plans.
One moment. I was gonna click that. Anyway, yeah, no, but I'm super excited for hyperspace. I can't wait. It's again, baby, it's Schmodown rules. Winner gets a title shot, and anybody who isn't like a dedicated player gets to pass the buck. So Travis, if you win, you know what you have to do.
Win the title? Yes.
Listen, I'm not going to hold on. Let me check something.
I will definitely be watching a couple matches at least.
I was going to recommend that you do.
Because like I need to know what kind of
feel for the trivia.
Into. Yeah.
Because Eli said that he's going to be turning the difficulty down a little bit for hyperspace. But
the Schmodown also did for the free-for-all.
Exactly. So let me check. Pardon my like hiccup burp. That was fucking disgusting. Let me see. What's today's date? Tomorrow. Okay. It comes out. Okay, it comes out at probably right after this episode is out. Mild spoiler for the number one contender match between Brennan Marr and Alden Diaz. I have a good feeling that the first Epic Confrontation champion is going to be Alden. And I really, really, really need to win hyperspace because there is nothing I'd love more than to take that shiny belt off his shoulder. Myself, personally. I got to remember I'm a face in Epic Confrontations now. I have turned face. So I need to find a way to monologue as a good guy now. But I'd like to be the one to relieve him of that title. Anyway, so there's that. And you guys can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon. Where did Give Me a Dollar guy go? I think I moved it by accident. This is such a clunky outro for what was otherwise a fantastic episode.
We didn't even give letter grades for The Flash.
I've given up on doing letter grades for reviews and stuff.
That's fair.
I don't know. I've had people kind of like affect my opinion on doing that kind of thing. And I've been won over to not necessarily do that anymore. I can't find Give Me a Dollar guy. I am going to have to hunt it down on my phone and put it back in the StreamYard.
Someone reset the timeline and we lost the clip.
So thank you to, okay, I'm going to do Paco first. Hold on. Let me exit out of that. I'm going to do Paco first. So thank you to our $10 patrons, Alex Jones.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
Now, you know what? I'm fully just going to save Keandre for last. So, also, in lieu of a Patreon shout out, we implore you all to go to Equality Texas. This was the charity that the Amidala Initiative benefited, that is here to keep queer kids safe in the state of Texas, which, if you've been keeping up with the news, is not a great place to be if you're queer or a kid. So go check out Equality Texas and consider making a generous donation there as well. And now, Keandre Lloyd, as you guys know, this used to be his clip. And the other day, Keandre saw that clip floating around on Twitter and quote tweeted me and tagged me and said, Jarod, I've decided that this is too mainstream a clip. I would like a new clip of my choosing. Me. And I decided that there is something that Keandre and I are both very big fans of that we've talked about on Twitter to each other over. And I decided his clip needed to be one from Dimension 20. And last night, I watched the season finale for the Ravening War, not knowing what his new clip was going to be yet. I just knew, I was like, maybe it'll be some like really funny Brennan Lee Mulligan monologue, where it's the cubby dad, breaking the kids out of the police precinct. Or it would be something funny from Unsleeping City. And then I saw this in the finale for the Ravening War. So thank you to our $10 patron, Keandre Lloyd.
Colin Provolone. Sir.
So good.
Steal yourself, Colin! Steal yourself!
This is me stealing myself!
I'm not going to give anybody any context or what happened there because spoilers, and it's funnier that way for me. Anyway, if you guys are interested in joining our Patreon, you will get a shout out at the end of every episode. If you're a $10 patron, I'll also give you a silly little clip to go with your shout out. If you're at the $5 tier, you get access to our 2 Patreon exclusive shows, which is Heroic History 101, which I hope to get out, to record and get out next week, as well as our Knights of the Nerd Republic Versus series. Spencer was out of the country for the past week or so, and I've not had the time to sit down and read Star Wars The High Republic, The Blade, which I need as research. So I'm going to be a comic book reading motherfucker over the next 2 weeks, between Flashpoint and studying up for Porter Engle versus Count Dooku.
Flashpoint will go so fast.
I'm counting on it, which will also have special guest Alden Diaz. Speaking of Alden, he will be on our Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny review, which is going to be delayed a little bit. Again, Spencer is just getting back into town recently. He's not even back in town. He got into the States a couple hours ago, and I do not want to see Dial of Destiny without him. So that review, if y'all will be so generous, will be a little bit delayed so that Spencer and I can see Indy together and then crank out a review after that. But that's all I got programming note wise. Like I said, later this week, there will be a news roundup. We're going to talk about Secret Invasion, our new Superman and Lois, and more. Thank you all so very much for watching and listening. Class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.